What's up, warriors? Welcome back to another episode of the Suburban Warrior Podcast. I'm your host, Crissy Pyfer, back again this week with another amazing warrior here to share his story and expertise with us today. So let me welcome to the podcast Dr. Sam Shay. He's a functional medicine expert, speaker, and stand-up comic who helps people get out of survival mode and reclaim their energy, focus, and vitality through personalized functional lab testing and his signature neuroharmony model. After overcoming years of chronic fatigue, insomnia, and digestive issues since childhood, Dr. Sam turned his recovery into a mission. He spent the last 25 years mastering the science of nutrition, mind-body medicine, and clinical lab testing to decode the root causes of burnout, overwhelm, and chronic health issues. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Shay.
Thank you, Crissy. It's good to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So thrilled to have you on. Obviously, this is one of my favorite topics. We're going to be talking about longevity, functional medicine, and, I know we're going to get into a lot of fun things like methylation, MTHFR, brain fog, energy. I think a lot of women that are listening to this experience issues with levels in their energy. So I'm excited for this conversation. But first, tell us a little bit more about yourself and sort of why you found your way to this field of medicine.
Sure. So I came into functional medicine the way most people do is through their own personal health journey. And my journey started when I was 6 years old, when my parents went through a really terrible divorce, and they didn't handle it well in the 80s. And it was then compounded that with a lot of violence and bullying at school, gaslighting at home, and it was just really awful. And then combine that with the 80s diet, which was basically pesticides and inflammation laced with some sugar.
Yeah.
That's, ramen, SpaghettiOs,
Yeah.
box
Frosted
cereal.
Flakes. Yeah.
Yeah, like the Tropicana orange juice, which is basically sugar and pesticides delivered in a glass, and
Yeah.
rancid Folgers.
Right.
I developed a lot of chronic health issues, digestive, anxiety, depression, crippling severe insomnia to the point I didn't have a growth spurt, chronic musculoskeletal pain from the injuries I sustained at school, and the video game addiction, a sugar addiction. I also contracted Lyme's disease when I was at a summer camp. I didn't realize that till years and years and years later. And so I've dealt with brain fog, embarrassing digestive issues, chronic fatigue, chronic pain, very emotional dysregulation, failure to thrive in the way I should have, and being sickly, pale, small, and vulnerable. And I took a turn in high school to take control of my health through the natural medicine means, because my parents, in their defense, didn't know anything about nutrition or lifestyle, because after all, they were both medical doctors.
Oh, they were.
Yeah, and even better, psychiatrists.
Oh.
I can't make this up.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
no
Oh
wonder I'm
my
into
gosh.
comedy, right? So
Yeah. I mean, now it's actually making a lot of sense.
exactly, yeah, it's all a rich
Yeah.
tapestry.
The puzzle pieces are slowly fitting together.
Yeah, so the question is like, how'd you get into natural medicine? And the question of how'd you get into comedy? The answer is the same.
Yeah.
The normal way, through tragedy.
Yeah.
So
Tragedy, trauma. Yeah.
comedy and trauma, what is, in fact, the opening joke to my comedy special is and this I have a 1 hour comedy show for free on YouTube called Neurospicy, Love, Life, and Comedy on the Spectrum.
Okay.
And it's the hour I wish I had 40 years ago to hand to my family, the school, the community, everyone, to understand what it's like to be on the autistic spectrum.
Yeah.
And there's, just for people, just aware, it's clean, observational, intelligent humor. There's no cursing, there's no politics, there's no gratuitous body fluid jokes. It's designed to bring normies and spectrum folk together.
Yeah.
And it's really, really enlightening. And I got like 40 plus 5-star reviews when I featured it at a festival.
Wow.
So it's for free, because comedy is my advocacy work and my education work. And I'm working on my second show right now, which is about what it was like to grow up in the 80s with chronic illness. And I'm
Wow.
talking about, the Folgers and the
Yeah.
oranges and all that.
Yeah.
So with that whole context, I decided in high school, I found a book and a mentor that helped turn me on to natural medicine, because I was supposed to be the third generation medical doctor,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I pivoted, and because the tools that were being offered to me, mostly, parents of the 80s, the tools that were being offered to me from them were SSRIs, TV, and emotional neglect.
Yeah.
Those are the three parenting tools they got,
Yeah.
and it's what made us kids latchkey strong.
Yeah. Right. Right.
So,
The 80s afternoon specials when you came home from school and they were, it was just,
I'm being parented by Tiny Toons
yeah.
and
Right.
X-Men and Married with Children. Like
Yes.
that's
Yes.
what's happening.
And the Say No
Uh,
to Drugs commercials.
right. And meanwhile, this is when I was researching for the show I'm writing. I figured out that the dairy industry actually has the same business model as the cartels.
Yeah.
Well, what is an ice cream truck but a mobile dealer announcing his presence to get kids hooked on that sweet, sweet milk?
Yeah. I mean, listen, we could go real deep in all this. That's
Totally. I
like,
mean,
yeah.
if you combine the addictive nature of dairy with the business model of Breaking Bad, you'd call it Baskin Robbins.
Yeah. But like this is funny though. I mean, we're laughing about it, but it's actually not funny. But the thing is back
Hence,
in
most
the
of comedy,
right,
scenes
right,
like
right,
that, you just summarize
exactly,
most of comedy. So the opening
exactly.
joke, okay, the opening joke to my comedy special, for which is the
Okay,
whole reason I got there,
yeah,
was, "What is a stand-up comic? It's a person with a problem who no longer pays for therapy."
yeah, right. Very true, very true. So, but going back to just thinking about like your journey in high school, and you had, you know, exposure and availability, and to a book and someone who, a function maybe a functional was it a
It
functional
was a
medicine
brain.
doc?
It was a brain gym consultant. Her name's Eliza Bergeson.
Okay,
She's still practicing and
yeah,
does virtual consults. But she changed my life, and
yeah,
she's the one who told me that like thoughts are like the body can influence the mind.
yeah,
Like she's the first person to remove this Cartesian model that the mind and body are separate. She's the
yeah,
person to actually show there's an integration of mind and body as opposed to this cerebral separation that my psychiatrist parents just lived in to this day.
yeah,
So she was the one who showed me the book. The book was called Dr. Jensen's Guide to Better Bowel Care, and because I had terrible digestive problems
yeah,
that were not being fixed, and I was just being blamed for, and I was like, I don't know what's going on.
right,
And Dr. Jensen, for people who don't know, is considered like the grandfather of naturopathy in the West, and he's written 60 something books or whatever. And that was the book that I picked up, and
okay,
I was like, oh, digestion and diet, actually, there's a lot more to it than Taco Bell, ramen noodles, and SpaghettiOs.
yeah.
And I mean, it's a miracle we're alive, even alive, given what we know
It
now.
really is when you think about it, how we have sustained as a society on all the poison for so many years and still
Oh,
are. But
it shows you the resilience of the human body.
yeah,
So my so I pivoted into natural medicine, and in college it was I did a pre-med with a glorified pre-med with extra organic chemistry, philosophy, and medical anthropology, and then did a holistic health practitioner degree on the evenings and weekends, and got into yoga and meditation, and ran an organic kitchen co-op, and then went on to chiropractic school and really specialized in functional neurology and nutrition while I was there. And then when I went, and then I traveled around teaching other chiropractors nationally how to pass their national registration exams. And then I moved abroad and practiced for 8 years and got an acupuncture degree while I was out there, and worked with uh, a population that was primarily females aged 35 to 60 that were that were kind of kicked to the curb by both Western and natural medicine, because they
yeah,
had this constellation of chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, autoimmune digestive problems, hormone imbalance, and stubborn weight, brain fog, insomnia, all in the same person.
yeah,
And I have deep, deep compassion for what they were going through, because I've had my own version of that.
yeah,
And I also I also know just firsthand, like my own mom was in a lot of physical pain growing up and was on a lot of painkillers, and also ate candy a lot and just would not have a good diet and just would not attribute her front-facing emotional affect, which was difficult, to sleep deprivation, pain, the medications, or dysglycemia. And so I have a very real interest in helping middle-aged women because I was on the receiving end of a middle-aged woman who was not regulated and empowered by knowing what to do to help her own body, her nervous system, her physiology, and just everything.
Yeah.
So when I am helping, when I'm helping this demographic, I know that I am not only helping her, I'm helping her children, which,
Yeah.
and I'm not hiding the ball on this one. Like,
Right.
I know I want to make sure what happened to me does not happen to others.
Yeah.
And I know, a lot. I've had parents say, "Oh, help my kid. He's the." I was like, I have difficult conversations with parents. Like, helping the kid is not going to guarantee to help the kid. Helping the parents is absolutely guaranteed to help the kid.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because my parents were busy pathologizing me and never looking at themselves.
Right.
And this may sound confronting to some parents who are listening, but if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably not confronted by what I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
the parents who aren't listening to your podcast that I'm concerned about. So if you're self-selected and already listening to this, then like you're the type of person I want to help because you're actually open to what I'm saying and understand that your physiology affects your psychology, which affects your family.
Right. And I would just go so far to say most of the people listening to this podcast, they know it's a health and wellness podcast for women in midlife. So they are here seeking answers for themselves, right? They know because and probably because they're not getting answers anywhere else that they're turning. And, this whole women in midlife, phenomenon that is kind of taking over. I mean, I've been doing this podcast since 2019. Since then, yes, there's more and more talk about perimenopause and menopause and what is happening in our bodies. And that's wonderful. And I'm so happy that this is becoming such a hopefully generational change, but it's not just HRT that's going to help.
No,
women,
no.
And I think, and that's like, the message that I'm trying to get out to women, and very similar, I'm sure, to yours, is we have to be empowered and educated to help ourselves, because the 15-minute doctor appointment, even if you are lucky enough to get HRT from your physician, which now a lot more people are, there's so much more that needs to be fixed, right?
Sure.
There's so, and I don't, fixed, yeah, we have to change. We have to change the way we eat, the way we sleep, the way we handle stress, the way we connect with others. There's just so much. The way that we view how our minds and bodies work, to what you were saying. So, I think it's really empowering ourselves to just take control of our health and our longevity and our health span and what we can do to affect it as we live our lives. Because yes, it's affecting us, but most women are running homes and they have kids and young kids, adult kids, like you name it, and
their parents degenerate into kids as my father has dementia right now.
Exactly.
So it's like twice old, once a child, I think was Shakespeare.
Yeah, right.
And you're exactly right that there's just there's tools out there, but I think if you're wanting like this. If you're wanting something like really practical that everyone can walk away with, who people are listening to here, the thing I can uniquely offer are the 2 frameworks so that you can figure out your own map of what tools you need. I'm not going to be talking about tools. I'm going to be talking about the map to know which tools work for you.
For you.
And otherwise you're just another biohacker chasing the latest shiny supplement or shiny laser or shiny whatever. And that's my criticism of the biohacker community, is that there's no map. Yeah. I mean, I've got a map, and that was my first ebook, was trying to give the map. It's like stop chasing toys and instead get the map first. So here are the two maps. There's a lifestyle map and a lab map. So lifestyle is looking at you from the outside in. Labs is looking at you from the inside out. You combine labs and lifestyle. That's holistic medicine.
Yes.
Right
Love
there.
it.
Holistic medicine. That's it.
That's
Another
it.
definition. Now for labs, you want to. So here's the framework for labs. You have to understand the difference between Western labs and functional medicine labs. So Western labs are looking for explicit overt pathology, and if it's not in the range, outside the range, and it's not pathological, the most common answer is wait till it's bad enough so we can diagnose you, then we'll put you on drugs, surgery, radiation as we seem fit.
Yeah.
That's Western approach to labs. Functional medicine is different. Functional medicine is the best of Western medicine lab diagnostics with the best of natural medicine's lifestyle, diet, supplements, lifestyle, exercise. That's the difference. We're using the toys of the Western world, but the solutions being recommended are different, and the range of what is, quote, normal is different.
Yeah.
What Western medicine, that bell curve is called normal. That's actually not normal, that's usual. Then in functional medicine, you may have the same bell curve, but we're looking at the gray space in between. There's a difference between medical usual and functionally optimal.
Right.
And you see this most commonly with TSH, where the most common marker that women get gaslit with is TSH. Oh, your thyroid's fine. Your TSH is normal. Stop complaining. Here's an antidepressant. That is the most common gaslighty metabolite on a lab I have ever seen in my entire career.
Yeah.
And so that's Western medicine. Oh, it's between 0.5 and 5 or 0.5 and 4.5, depending on the lab, TSH. You're fine. Go away. Stop bothering me. In functional medicine, the normal range is 0.5 to 2 if you're under 65 or 0.5 to 2.5 if you're over 65. And we're not just looking at TSH. We're looking at free T3, free T4, reverse T3, anti-TPO, anti-TG as like the core 6 thyroid metabolites. But then even further, you can look at other reasons why the thyroid is going sideways. For example, you can run gut testing to look to see if there is intestinal permeability, also known as leaky gut. Things leak through like H. pylori or gluten or blastocystis hominis and other scary sounding infections that then your body mounts an immune response to attack those things. And then the thyroid is caught in the crossfire.
Yeah.
So there's much more complexity in gray space and shades of gray in functional medicine to look at what's going on, because Western medicine philosophically is oriented around getting people from crisis to stability, whereas functional medicine is getting people from chronic to normal to optimal. Right. So that's the philosophical overview to understand labs. Because if I say labs and then people still have a framework of Western labs, it's not a correct lens. So from the functional lens, here's the framework for labs. There's 5 categories of labs. 5.
Okay. Gut
testing, hormone testing, mitochondria or metabolism testing, the weird stuff, genetics.
Okay.
We'll start with the weird stuff because everyone wants to know what that is. Okay, so the weird stuff, that's metals, mold, hidden infections, Lyme, viruses, environmental toxins, all the things you don't want in your system. Yeah. That's the weird stuff.
Yeah.
Gut testing, you've got 3 subcategories of gut testing. You have broad spectrum gut tests like, do you want me to name exact names of tests?
Sure.
Okay, so GI map, GI effects, GI 360, CDSA. There's about 4 to 5 or 6 legit gut tests in the functional medicine space.
Yeah.
And these are the ones that check for, about 4 dozen infections, maybe more, maybe a little less. They check for beneficial bacteria. They check for gut inflammation, gut immune system. Do you have immune response to gluten in your diet? How well is your pancreas and your liver helping you digest food? Intestinal permeability markers, some of them bile acids. It's a very big, broad spectrum gut test that looks like a lot of stuff that's really valuable. That's the most important test to get. Then the next subcategory is SIBO testing, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Trio Smart has a triple one where they check for hydrogen, methane, and sulfide SIBO. Then you've got food intolerance testing, and like every company's got food intolerance testing. There's so many. I'm not even going to bother naming the companies. It's basically all of them.
How do you feel about the food intolerance
I
testing?
don't. I don't. I avoid them mostly. The reason why
I do
is
too. That's why I was just curious because
yeah.
I just don't think. I don't know.
Good.
I just don't think the testing is always as accurate as to what might be causing the problem.
So here's what I learned when I studied with Dr. Kalish for 4 years. If your gut is inflamed, irritated, injured, in fact, whatever.
Right.
Okay. And I eat a piece of broccoli.
Right.
And my broccoli brushes up against an irritated piece of my intestine. My intestine can only really do one thing: inflame or create an immune response.
Right.
And so, if I have here's my arm, and I poke my arm, and my fingers bouncing off my arm, fine. But then I have a cut on my arm, and I poke the cut.
Yeah.
Do I have an allergy to my finger?
Right.
Or do I have an open wound that's being irritated from physical damage?
Right.
It's so the thing about food allergen testing, it's like there are genuine food intolerances. That is for sure. I run genetics testing, like there is some. But you know what? The other stuff I'm not so sure about.
Yeah.
Because I would rather run a really good like general gut test to identify, is there inflammation?
Right.
What's the digestion like? Because I don't know how much of the food intolerances are just something else, you know. Yeah. I'm really not a fan. I'll do them if under very, very specific circumstances, but I'd rather people spend their attention and resources and time on the big gut tests and, if necessary, SIBO. So that's the gut. So we've covered weird stuff, gut stuff, hormones. Okay, so hormones come into 3 categories: adrenals, thyroid, sex hormones. You can chuck in melatonin, and you can get melatonin testing usually with adrenal testing or the sex hormone testing, depending on which tests you do. Okay. So adrenals is helping your stress resilience. Also, if you're having blood sugar dysregulation or blood pressure issues, adrenals may also be really indicated to test. But your resilience, your ability to navigate stress throughout the day and your diurnal rhythms. Thyroid. I mean, thyroid and adrenal, they oppose each other because the adrenals are the emergency system for short-term survival. The thyroid is for long-term health, healing, growth, and repair. And that's why if you're too stressed out for too long a period of time, your thyroid can shut down, because the thyroid is there for when things aren't an emergency. And if you're living in a real emergency, whether real or contrived or imagined, your body interprets it the same way. So that's why in functional medicine, usually you treat adrenals first, then thyroid, then sex hormones, because the adrenals affect the thyroid affects the sex hormones.
Yeah.
And the testing. So almost every major company has salivary adrenal tests out there. There's an upgraded version called CAR, Cortisol Awakening Response, which you get an extra sample within 30 minutes of when you wake up. That checks how resilient you are to stress, because when you wake up, your cortisol levels should approximately double. The ranges vary 50 to 150%. We'll just call it up by 100%, so that's doubling.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, that means you're low resilience. And I've seen people go up to over 400%.
Yeah.
And these are the hypervigilant folk that are just like totally on guard all the time.
Yeah. Well, have you ever seen someone who has had 0 cortisol response?
Oh, I've seen it inverse.
Yeah. Okay. And like literally like nothing. Like wake up, no cortisol response. Like what would you expect to see?
I've seen it go down. I've seen not even 0. It went the opposite direction. Yeah.
Yeah. And what would you expect to see? You know, how a patient would present if that was happening. What would you expect?
These people are
like bottomed out.
They like don't want to leave the couch. Even sitting up is hard, because literally gravity requires an adrenal response.
Yeah. Interesting.
These are where gravity is hard.
Right.
And they can't handle any stress, even the stress of sitting up.
Yeah, like you literally shouldn't be able to get out of bed. You shouldn't be like walking, functioning, right?
Well,
Yeah.
the whole reason why your adrenals respond. I mean, I trained with Dr. Wilson, who wrote the book Adrenal Fatigue, and the whole reason why you your adrenals kick in when you sit up or go sit. I mean, we learned this in chiropractic school in orthopedics class. It's called Raglan sign, where you
Yeah.
sit to stand, and if you see lights flashing or your vision dimming. I had Raglan sign in orthopedics lab. And I was like, wow, I'll never have to study that thing again because I just freaking had it.
You're like,
But
now I'm going to remember the name of that forever.
so
Yeah.
that was 20 years ago. Jeez.
Yeah. Well, the reason I
So,
even asked you about the cortisol is because at one point during my health
uh
journey in the last 10 years, I had like zilcho, like literally, like my doctor wanted to hospitalize me. She's like, I don't even know how you are walking around, but I'm like, but I am, and I'm functioning, and it's a whole journey. But like, again, I think, you know, it's the trick between listening to your body, looking at the labs, understanding what's happening. I mean, it's just it's just very it can't. These problems aren't solved in a 15-minute doctor's appointment.
no, they're not. And this is why functional medicine has really exploded in popularity,
Yeah.
justifiably so, is because,
Yeah.
appointments are hour, 45 minutes, whatever. And then there's a known phenomenon of needing ongoing coaching support.
Of
Uh, or,
course,
or,
of
or
course.
So,
Yeah.
just to finish the loop on the gravity
Yes,
thing,
yes,
when
exactly.
you
So we were
when you
back
sit
to
up,
yeah.
when you sit up, what happens is that your brain, your body has two primary objectives: keep the brain irrigated with blood, and don't damage the spine, and keep the brain irrigated with blood. Those are the
Yeah.
two highest priority things. So when you sit up, your blood vessels are glorified plumbing, and they respond to gravity just like any fluid would. So when you sit up, there's a very quick moment where your head is now higher than where your blood was, because when you stand up, suddenly
Yeah.
gravity is, so there's a momentary mismatch. So, but if your adrenal system is agile enough, it'll quickly release hormones to constrict the blood vessels to then push the blood up into the brain to keep it irrigated with blood, so you don't have a stroke. That
Yeah.
what is it called when you lose enough blood to the brain for enough period of time? That's called a stroke. So
Yeah.
when people have low adrenal function and they sit up and they feel dizzy, that's a delay in the blood getting up to the brain, and feeling dizzy, like, oh, I need to lay down. That is an internal safety response, because your body is telling you your brain needs blood. Sit down, lay down, lay down on your back. That's when someone faints, you raise their legs up. So, because it's a way to save the brain, because if you stand up and you don't have enough blood to your brain for long enough, you risk of causing an ischemic stroke.
Right.
So the body will tell you to lay down, because if you don't, you're going to faint and have a head injury on the way down,
Yeah.
and cause a physical trauma as well.
Yeah.
So the adrenal glands are extremely important. Thyroid testing, you can get comprehensive thyroid testing from any of the functional labs that are out there.
Yeah.
And then you've got sex hormone testing. And the most popular one out there is Dutch.
Yeah.
The Dutch Plus combines the salivary adrenal test and the cortisol awakening response, and it checks sex hormones, but doesn't just check for E2, testosterone, and progesterone, and sex, and sex hormone binding level. Like, it's checking for 7 types of estrogen, the
Yeah.
entire flow chart, and it's testing for testosterone, its metabolites, DHEA, DHAS, its metabolites, progesterone, its metabolites. So you're looking at the entire flow chart of the estrogen system. And so for people who are struggling with perimenopause or menopause, the Dutch Plus test is a very popular test, because it's looking at the adrenal system and the entire sex hormone cascade, and it has melatonin in there as well. And especially if you combine it with gut testing, and some of these other tests I'm about to mention, like, you can get literally a full picture.
Yeah.
So that's gut testing, that's hormones. We covered the weird stuff. Then the third, the other category is mitochondria metabolism. And so these are the tests that check for how well functioning. It's like your nutritional tests. So mitochondria, for those that aren't familiar, is the factory that makes energy in your cells. It's one of the most important things in your whole body. Depending on the paper you read, it's 5 to 10% of your entire body weight are mitochondria. Just to give some perspective, take any major city, New York, San Diego, Miami, Dallas, whatever. Imagine if 5 to 10% of the entire city's footprint was the electricity factory in the grid.
Yeah.
That's how important that is. Now, you take any city and you take away all the electricity overnight, you have 3 days before it goes full Mad Max.
Yeah, exactly.
So
true.
The same thing in your cells. Like your cells are little cities. They're little spherical cities. And you need the electricity factory to run to make sure everything is working. If you don't have electricity, things are not going to work and it's going to be bad. So to run that factory, you need vitamins, minerals, amino acids, fatty acids, antioxidants. You need it's just like a factory. Like the machines in the factory are the vitamins. The computer chips that run the machines are the minerals. The conveyor belts CoQ10. The truckers unions that deliver the materials to burn, that's carnitine and B2 and glycine and magnesium for the fatty acid truckers union. That's B vitamins for the protein truckers union. That's lipoic acid and chromium and some other B vitamins for the carbohydrate truckers union. If you don't have those currencies, carnitine, B2, magnesium, all this lipoic acid, then the truckers union ain't paid and the fuel sits on the docks.
Yeah.
So, and then you've got to have security guards, an immune system to keep vandals away and taking over. You need to have janitors inside cleaning up the sparks. This is, superoxide dismutase that are picking up all the sparks that are flying around from burning all the things, so the factory doesn't catch on fire. So when you're looking at your mitochondrial metabolism, you're looking at your micronutrient panels. It also includes things like blood sugar, all the other minerals. It includes iron, anemia, checking for anemias, checking how your entire metabolism.
Yeah.
So then we've had the weird stuff: gut, hormone, mitochondria, metabolism. Then the last category is genetics. So the genetics, you can look at. So there's several different key categories in genetics. There's two bigger categories. One is diet. Sorry, there's three categories: diet, diet genes, exercise genes, and then longevity genes.
Okay.
So the exercise genes, the key ones to look for are: what's your fiber type? Are you a sprinter, an endurance, or some mixture? What's your relationship to your collagen, meaning you're at risk of joint injury? And what's your relationship to inflammation? So if you over-exercise, you can become hyper-inflammatory and cause muscle injury. So if you have risks to your collagen or inflammation, it doesn't mean don't exercise. What it means is that you now have to focus on recovery as much as you do the exercise.
Yeah.
Then there's the genes on diet, and there's a couple key categories in diet for genetics testing. One is your carb tolerance. Are you genetically better suited for keto, paleo, Mediterranean, or high carb? That test exists. That's one of the tests that I do in my company.
Wow, that's awesome.
Then there's a genetics test for food triggers, where you're looking at what's your sensitivity to gluten, to dairy, to caffeine. Do you get caffeine-induced anxiety and depression like I do?
Yeah.
That's genetic.
Yeah.
Sensitivity to histamine, sensitivity to food allergens. And then there's your diet of your eating behaviors. Do you genetically overeat? Do you genetically overcrave sugar? Do you genetically overconsume sugar? Do you genetically avoid bitter foods? Do you genetically crave fats? Are you genetically more prone to being inflammatory, therefore need to be on an anti-inflammatory diet? So there's all these genetic considerations that you can actually customize your diet according to your genes. And then the third category of genetics, bigger category, is the health and well-being and longevity. So that's looking at not the disease genes, but like cancer. I'm not looking for a cancer gene or heart disease gene, a dementia gene, or whatever. I'm looking for what are the genes for inflammation, the most important genes for inflammation, the most important genes for dealing with free radicals, the most important genes for liver detox, the most important genes for vitamin D utilization, and most important genes for methylation the most important genes for cardiovascular circulation, and the most important genes for fat metabolism. So those are the genes, if provoked, then we'll go downstream and poke on the air quotes disease genes. So I'm looking at the drivers of diseases, not the diseases themselves.
So the drivers being like predisposition, like
No,
genetically.
the drivers of disease. So predisposition genes imply that you have the air quotes cancer gene like BRCA2. That's not a gene I'm looking for.
Understood.
I'm
Okay.
looking at the genes for inflammation, because what provokes BRCA2? Inflammation.
Yeah.
So what is my relationship to inflammation?
Gotcha.
So I'm looking at the 16 most important genes for inflammation to get a gestalt understanding of, am I a hyperinflamer or not? I am. Of those 16 genes, I have 14 that are bad versions. I've had maybe a half dozen people in my entire 10-year career in genetics that have had 14 genes. Now, for the first 7 years of these 10 years, 10 plus years at this point, I've been doing this. For the first 7 years, I had the gold medal. I was a gold medalist in the crappy gene Olympics. I had the worst genes of anyone I'd ever tested, which explained why I was so sick.
Yeah, exactly.
And and when I got my genetics test, like I was so overwhelmed with the results in relief.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, now I
Now it makes sense.
understand.
Yeah.
And now I have a pathway forward.
Yeah.
And so the genetics is, if people were looking for a place to start, I would recommend genetics simply because it's the most high value test you'll ever get, because you do the test once and now you have the results.
Yeah.
And now you have that results for life.
Yeah. And also, so with the genetics testing,
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned methylation. I want to talk a little bit about that, because I think that more and more people have heard about methylation. Do you have the MTHFR, mutation? If so, should you be taking different supplements, methylated supplements? Talk to me a little bit about that whole situation.
Sure. So methylation. So one of the things that distinguishes my company, FitGenesUSA.com, and the parent company, FitGenes.com, is in Australia. One of the things that the chief science officer, Dr. Paul Beaver, who founded the company a while ago, I think in the aughts, basically the difference is that he figured out that genes have a priority. So methylation is actually fifth priority.
Okay.
Not first. The first priority is inflammation. Inflammation controls methylation. Methylation jumped into the zeitgeist as of December of 24 because Gary Brecka was interviewed by Joe Rogan, and that just went around the world like wildfire. And he was selling his little overpriced genetics test for 5 genes for $600, and all of them were methylation genes. And he's saying, like, all you need is this test. And I was like yelling into my podcast player as if he could hear me. And like, when I get upset, I make a PowerPoint. So I went and found all the research showing that methylation is downstream of inflammation.
Yeah.
And it's downstream of free radical damage scavenging. And at best, it's bidirectional or equal with liver detox and vitamin D receptors. So that's why it was fifth on the priority list. So when you ask me about what I think of methylation, I think it's very, very down on the list of priorities. And if you want to help your in methylation, the very first thing you should do is have an honest look at your inflammation, free radicals, liver detox, and all this other stuff, because methylation is affected by those things. And just to back up, what's the definition of methylation? So methylation is a methyl group is a carbon and 3 hydrogens that's attached to a molecule. Think of methylation as the barcode taper thingy in a grocery store. It's the tagging system.
Yeah.
To scan, like, where is the thing, what is the thing. That's what methylation does. It does a bit more than that, but that is simply the easiest way to understand what is the big deal about methylation. It's because it's the barcoder that adds the barcode.
Okay.
So if you methylate something, you are now putting it in a different direction. You're sending it off into somewhere different. So and you see methylation at the last stages of estrogen detox, and if you've got poor methylation, then it's hard to go from 2-hydroxy to 2-methoxyestrogen to get a detox out of the system. So it is important for sure, and it is a part of the detox pathway. But what is above, if you track that estrogen detox pathway, it says right up above, like multiple steps above before you get all the way to 2-methoxyestrogen, is inflammation controlling what happens to those other estrogens upstream. So when people are wanting to know the thing, okay, so what do I do about inflammation? If I'm concerned about methylation, what do I do about my inflammation? Then the first thing to do is to get your own personal map. What is your relationship to inflammation genetically? There's also other functional tests out there, like there's inflammation markers like CRP. There's calprotectin and gut testing. You've got if you've got dysregulation if you're over converting testosterone into estrogen, the enzyme that does that, aromatase, gets out of whack if there's too much inflammation. So you can use estrogen dominance as a indirect marker for there's inflammation going on. So there's multiple ways to figure out what your relationship to inflammation is. You can also.
So I'm sorry, but so the whole MTHFR mutation, and that you have to have, if you have it, which I think a huge percentage of the population does.
A lot of people do.
A lot of people do. It's like a crazy high percentage. But then you should be. I mean, they make it sound like if you have this MTHFR mutation, that every single thing that you're putting in your body is not making it to the cell, or that you have to have methylated supplements and everything, like methylated B and methylfolate. And so, is that true? Is that
so? It's okay. So the MTHFR is one of about a dozen to a dozen and a half genes that control methylation.
Yeah.
So MTHFR, there's actually MTHFR1, there's MTHFR2, there's also MTR, MTR, SHMT, TCN2, FOOD2, CBS, BHMT, PMT, MTHFD1, COMT, GCLC, GCLM, GSTP1. There's a lot. There's a lot of different genes that are involved with it. The reason why MTHFR is so prominent is because it suffers from founder's effect. MTHFR was the first gene that really captured the public's imagination when genetics finally became practically available on a commercial level. Yeah. And it was the first. It's like Xerox was a product, now it's a verb. Hoover was a company, now it's a verb. Google literally had to change their name to Alphabet because you cannot trademark a verb. Yeah. Google became a verb. So it's like MTHFR basically is it's this founder's effect thing. So it has undue purchase in the public consciousness. And doesn't mean it's not important, but it's not even in the top 5 genes, in my opinion. So if you're concerned about methylation, yes, methylated supplements can help certain people, asterisk if you're not having those methylated supplements affect other ways in other parts of the pathways, or you even have the nutritional grunt to help process all the other stuff. It can get very complex very quickly. Yeah. But the first place to start if you're concerned about methylation is to deal with your inflammation. The free radical scavenging enzymes in your mitochondria, improving liver detox, and helping with your vitamin D absorption.
Yeah.
That's the big message around methylation is there are other priorities to focus on first. Doesn't mean not focus on methylation, but it's not the first thing I would look at. Are there edge cases where people are so nutritionally and physiologically ground down that they are exquisitely sensitive to any type of B vitamin that is not the perfect ratio or volume? Yes, there are, and those people, that's a very niche situation. I'm talking about the really big picture that methylation is just not the priority people think it is.
Yeah. Inflammation really is everything.
It's the highest priority.
It's the highest priority. And the population of people in general are walking around chronically inflamed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wondering why everybody feels like such crap.
Totally. The lab map is gut, hormones, metabolism, mitochondria, the weird stuff,
Yeah.
genetics.
Okay.
Then there's the lifestyle map.
Okay.
Uh, I have my own map. It's called the 10 Pillars of Health. It's nested under the neuroharmony model, but like the neuroharmony model is basically this combination of labs and lifestyle together.
Okay.
But the 10 Pillars of Health, just to say, look, I've got my own model. I developed it, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago. The important message is if you're going to work, for anyone listening, if you're going to work with a functional practitioner, frankly, any practitioner, please make sure they have a framework. Mine's called the 10 Pillars of Health. Other people may have the triangle of health, the 5 steps to health, the inverted hypotenuse of wellness. I don't care. Some framework.
Yeah.
That's the thing. The meta message is work with someone who's got a framework for labs and a framework for lifestyle.
Yeah.
That's the most important practical thing I have seen working with this population of 35 to 60-year-old females who are in some type of health transition.
Crisis. Yeah.
And
Crisis.
it's the frameworks that are the most valuable, because then you can judiciously pick the appropriate interventions, therapies, strategies, and tools, as opposed to hoping and being disappointed over and over and over again. And the reason why, go ahead.
Yeah. No, and I was going to say, we're expecting like a magic
Bullet.
or a magic bullet to, going to solve it all, which it's not. And it's, I tell clients, I think, it took you 40, 48, whatever, how many years to be in this position and feel this way. There's no magic pill that's going to make you feel better overnight.
It's so extremely rare, and the 10 pillar model actually explains those phenomenon. What I found in the people who are chronic, imagine 10 pillars.
Yeah.
Now everyone's got the same 10 pillars, but everyone has different states of repair for each pillar. 10 pillars in brief: brain and hormones. 2, bowel and digestion. 3, body structure, untreated injuries, head trauma, bad dental work, physical body. 3rd pillar. 4th pillar,
Wait, let me stop you there for a second. Let's talk
Sure.
about that bad dental work.
Mm-hmm.
Because
How much time you got?
not much left, but I think this is something that's becoming more and more talked about, but probably just within functional medicine practitioners. It's
Sure.
not for the general public. So tell me what you mean by, I know what you mean, but I want you to tell my listeners what you mean by bad dental work.
Okay, so if you've got hidden infections or chronic tooth pain, then it can affect your entire body. So hidden infections will wear down your immune system and cause kind of what's local inflammation can become systemic, and it's a constant. It's the equivalent of having a permanent splinter in your jaw. And then bad dental work causing chronic pain. The problem with jaw pain is that it's unfiltered by the cerebellum. I mean, when I did my functional neurology training, we had an entire 15-hour weekend module on head and face pain.
Yeah.
I don't have to tell you how ironic it was how many headaches people had at the end of that module.
Yeah, exactly.
It was brutal. It was one of the most brutal,
I'm sure,
modules I've ever had to sit through. Now, your trigeminal nerve, which goes through there's one nerve that goes through the maxillary nerve, goes through the top row of the teeth, mandibular nerve through the lower jaw. That nerve mainlines directly into the brainstem. All the other sensations in your body, from the head down, go up the spine, and then they get filtered by and gated by the cerebellum. So they're not as intense because the cerebellum helps gate it. You don't have that. So pain in the jaw goes straight into the cortex. And it goes right into the brainstem and goes right up. So the only known cause of suicide amongst the Inuit was jaw pain. In fact, think of the entire history of dentistry before anesthesia.
Yeah.
Jaw pain will drive people to the point where they want someone in medieval times to pull out their tooth with something looking like pliers.
Yeah.
That's how bad jaw pain can be. So,
even with the jaw pain, even isn't there, can't you have hidden infections like you
Yeah, yeah,
mentioned
absolutely.
without any even pain, but that could be causing other things like brain fog or chronic fatigue,
Yeah, because
or
you absolutely,
you
because
have
you're
this
creating,
infection
yeah,
in your, like
pockets of
from like a crown or a root canal or
yeah, absolutely.
something that is,
Yeah.
but like I think, I mean, listen, I would even go so far to say cancer, like I don't know, like, but it lowers your immune response because your immune system is just fighting this infection that you
Absolutely.
don't
If you're
even know that you have.
Yeah, the immune system can be just like totally directed to other things. It's just trying to hold everything back from bad dental work. Like a root canal can cause a lot of hidden infections, bad crown work. Also, you can create these hidden pocket infections that then create this cascade effect that then, at a minimum, take away your body's resources it would allocate otherwise to deal with other immune related issues.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
It's crazy.
so that's
Crazy.
that's pillar three. Pillar
Yeah.
four would be burst exercise, movement, and recovery. Pillar five is biotoxins and inflammation. Pillar six is bionutrients and diet. Pillar seven is breakfast and routines, morning and evening routines. Pillar
Yeah.
eight is bothers, hidden stressors, unresolved traumas, and clutter. Uh, Pillar 9 is bugs, hidden infections, and mold. And pillar 10 is bedtime and sleep. All begin with a
Right.
B.
Yeah.
So what I found is that people, that these women I work with who had chronic issues, they had a minimum 7 out of 10 pillars crumbling.
Yeah.
Didn't matter which 7.
I'm
And
sure.
then but most practitioners, protocols, and products at best are really skilled at 3. So if you're sitting on 7 tacks and you remove 3, you're technically healthier, but you're not
Yeah.
better.
Right.
And the magic bullets are if someone is like 80+% in their pillars, but there's one pillar that's like at 30, and they happen to find that one magic bullet that brings them from 30% to 80%, they feel amazing. And then suddenly now they're an MLM system selling their goji juice that you squirt up your left nostril or whatever. And
Yeah.
because it worked for me, it's got to work for you. I tried all the things, and that's the
Right.
narrative of all these magic bullets. It worked
Right.
for me.
Gotta work for
They
you.
want to keep it away from you. They are keeping you down. And I tried all the things. And then there's this super scientist that found this special thing. And now he's letting it to us and only
Right.
us. And they want to keep it down. It's like, it's a tool
Yeah.
and it happened to work for you. But it's not, but you have the map. Now you can know what tools to use as opposed to just chasing these magic bullets.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, okay. So, thank you for sharing all of that. Tell my listeners where they can find out more about the pillars and the tools and the mapping, and learn more about
Sure.
you and your services.
So my website is drsamshay.com, drsamshay.com, drsamshay.com. And that's more for the function that's kind of more the 10 pillars and all the other categories of testing. If people are interested in genetics, they can go to fitgenesusa.com,
Okay.
fitgenesusa.com. There, if you're just a member of the lay public and you just want to get your genetics test done, you can put in find a practitioner, and then we can connect you to the nearest FitGenes practitioner. And then if you are a licensed practitioner, a certified health coach, or a certified fitness professional, and you want to run genetics in your practice, then you can sign up as a practitioner on the same website, fitgenesusa.com. My goal is to help get these genetics tests into the hands of practitioners and coaches.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, if I had my genetics tests back when I was 6 as opposed to 36, my whole life would have been different.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that is a really, really important point, because, it is tests like that, the GI tests that, not a lot, many people are not getting access to these things. I mean, and
Hmm.
even the labs that they're getting access to from their physicians, like we talked about earlier, are still, looking at different ranges than are really
Yep. They're
even.
looking at medical normals, not functional optimals.
Exactly, exactly. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I know that I have learned so much and really enjoyed our conversation. It sounds like we certainly are on the same page on a lot of things, and just getting this message out to as many people as possible to really just, again, empower and educate to take control of your own health and know that there are resources and practitioners out there to help you, to partner with you throughout this journey that everybody's on. So thank you so much for sharing everything today. And guys, I want to thank you for being back here and listening to this episode of the podcast. I want to remind you to check out suburbanwarriorpodcast.com. That's where you can learn more about my integrative health practitioner business, as well as sign up for our weekly newsletter delivered right in your inbox. And of course, you can download the From Pause to Power roadmap, which is free. Again, it's all the information I wish I had about 10 years ago that no one was talking about. Now it's free to you. So thanks so much for being here. And Dr. Sam Shay, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Crissy, and thank you for podcasting for these past 7 years.
Yeah, of course.